I don't have a single friend. Do you think that's weird? I don't really care about having friends. I don't mind not having friends. I've never really felt like I've really wanted to have friends. I spend most of my time in this apartment. I don't go anywhere. I don't have any interactions with other people apart from my girlfriend or my family.
The person you just saw goes by hiding in my room, or Daniel, who currently is 36 years old. Several years ago, in 2018, he released his most popular video called Why I Have No Friends. Though I don't think this was the intent of his video, Daniel is technically one of the founders of the misery, I'm a loser content that blows up every so often. And while you can usually sympathize with the small YouTubers who make these types of videos because maybe they missed a couple social milestones, Daniel is probably not one of those people.
The last time I've had proper friends was about 12 years ago when I was in secondary school. I had two very close friends. They used to come over to my house every day after school to play video games.
This video was made 7 years ago when he was 28, and he still doesn't have friends, so that's almost 20 years. And very quickly you can see why no one's around.
I started playing online games. I started playing Star Wars Galaxies, World of Warcraft, and I realized that I didn't need friends to play video games, and I ditched my secondary school friends, and I made new friends online.
He traded his real friends in for the Discord group chat and is wondering why no one's around. Now, as bad as it is for someone to ditch their friends for online games, this is actually not the full story. The full story was told in a different video and is even more depressing.
There was this one time during the summer holiday when I was playing Star Wars Galaxies, and my friends from secondary school actually came over to my house to try and get me to go skateboarding with them. And I was so addicted to Star Wars Galaxies, I didn't want to go outside of the house, so they ended up coming into my house. My mum prepared food and they just sat there and ate food behind me whilst I completely ignored them.
So this is an interesting case study. It's very rare that someone is this open about themselves, probably to his own detriment, to be honest. But I think the good part about Daniel being so open and obvious in his mistakes is that it makes it really easy for everyone else to see what he's doing wrong. And make no mistake, I've watched many people who make these kinds of videos blatantly choosing video games over other people and wondering why they don't have friends. So I don't think what Daniel is experiencing is all that uncommon with the people who make the I have no friends videos. That being said, let's continue.
If I want to meet up or do something, usually I don't make the first move. I don't send messages to people that I thought were my friends. I don't ask people if they want to come and hang out, because I feel like if they were really serious about being my friend, then they would send me the message and I wouldn't have to ask them. They would ask me first.
I mean, you have the solution right there, but you aren't willing to do it. If you're always expecting other people to invite you out to things while at the same time you never initiate anything yourself, then eventually a lot of your friendships are going to die.
In the past, I've had guys ask me things like, do you want to go and get a beer? Do you want to go and hang out? Do you want to go shopping? And the first thing that I think of is, why? What's the point? I'm not interested in guys. I'm not interested in having sex with guys. If I'm not interested in having sex with a guy, then what's the point in spending time with a guy?
That's kind of a weird way to describe it, but now we can see why no one ever asks him to do anything. He probably says no to a lot of people when they invite him out, or he ignores them for video games like he did with his childhood friends.
I'm not really interested in being friends with girls either, because if I see a girl, usually I want to sleep with her, or I feel really unattracted to her, then I don't really want to have anything to do with her. There are people that I chat to online fairly often, and all of these people are girls. And the only reason that I chat to them isn't because I want to be friends with them, it's because I think they're attractive, and I think there might be a possibility of having sex with them.
I mean, that's kind of a very dismissive way to describe a relationship or women. Something about the way he said that makes it seem like he doesn't feel like women are people. Though I get it if you don't want to be friends with women, because that's a difficult thing to navigate, especially if they are the same age as you, but he also says he doesn't want to be friends with guys either. It kind of just seems like he doesn't care about anyone. Why is that?
I grew up watching Friends, the American sitcom, and I honestly thought that when I grew up, I was going to have a small, close-knit group of friends, and I thought we were going to spend every day together, and we're going to be all great friends for the rest of our lives. And then I became an adult, and I realized it was all just lies. Reality isn't like Friends. You don't make friends for the rest of your life. You make friends, and then they leave you. Friends are just a temporary thing. It's not a permanent thing, and it just feels like the time you spent with them was just a waste of time. I don't want to waste time on people who are just going to abandon me. I don't want to waste time on people who are just temporary features of my life. I'd rather just spend that time by myself.
Plenty of people have very long-lasting friendships. If people keep abandoning you, then it might be more of a problem with you than it is a problem with friendship in general. So I think that last clip of Daniel actually explains some things. There are definitely some parts of this story that are missing, but it's clear that for some reason, Daniel has abandonment issues, so he purposely puts up barriers between him and other people so he doesn't have to deal with loss. As for the exact reasoning for that, I don't know, but in hindsight, after many years, he really did seem to care about losing his high school friends and regretted ditching them over video games.
Now that I think about it, I really feel bad about doing that. They were my friends for years and years. We used to play games together all the time. I used to go over to their houses. We used to ride our bicycles around the village all the time. When it snowed, we went sledging together. We used to go to the cinema together. We were really good friends for years, and because of Star Wars Galaxies and my addiction to online gaming, I just chucked that all away, and I treated them like shit when they came over to my house to see me.
It's actually surprising that he had so much self-awareness about that event in retrospect, and he does seem to display a heavy amount of self-awareness in a lot of his videos. For example, this moment here where he pretends to be one of his critics.
I've had enough of this. Look, the only reason why you can't make friends, Daniel, is because you're not interested in people. You don't care about people. You only care about yourself. You only care about what you can gain or benefit from a certain person by being friends with them.
So while very often Daniel displays incredible amounts of self-awareness, I think he very often has no self-awareness about things that actually matter. He's aware of his abandonment issues, but he doesn't understand why people would abandon him. This is displayed perfectly in a more recent video he did about friends called People Suck, where he's upset that people don't want to be in his videos.
When people find out that they're in my videos, one of my videos, they're not happy at all, and they're actually they show disgust, like they're disgusted and repulsed at the idea of having anything to do with me or my channel. And do you know how that makes me feel? It makes me feel upset and angry and hurt.
This outburst came after someone from Daniel's past found a video of Daniel's with a picture of his face in it, and he asked Daniel to remove the video or the picture. Now, someone who knows nothing about Daniel might think, why would this guy not be happy that he got to be in a YouTube video? Well, let's see if we can figure it out.
Do you remember back in 2020, I made a video about my GAY experience in Japan, and in the thumbnail, there's two Japanese guys. On the right side of the thumbnail is the guy who did the thing to me, and on the left side of the thumbnail is the guy, well, he doesn't have anything to do with the story, he's just the guest house manager, and he just happened to be in the photo that I used.
First of all, that kind of steps on that thing that you said earlier about not being interested in guys. Second, you don't see why this guy doesn't want his picture in the thumbnail of a video called My Gay Experience in Japan? I feel like most people could figure out that he doesn't want to be in your video because it implies that he's gay. The guy sent Daniel a message, which he then publicly shares after blocking him without responding. Now, a part of me wants to sympathize with Daniel and his struggles because while he does have a high amount of self-awareness, he doesn't really seem to understand people other than himself. But then another part of me looks at his behaviors and thinks he's an asshole who deserves the distaste that he gets from people.
If I found out Chris Broad put me in one of his videos, I'd be honored. I'd be so excited and I'd be so happy. And the facts that people don't feel that way when I'm using them in my videos, and it's like they hate me, they seem like they're scared that I'm going to have some kind of negative impact or effect on their personal life or their career life because their face is now on my videos or associated with my channel. And I just don't get it because I just don't see how your face being on one of my videos is going to affect your personal life in any single way.
Gee, again, why would someone not want to be in a video where you call them gay when they aren't? Such a mystery. Since Daniel didn't respond, the guy filed a privacy complaint which ultimately did nothing because all Daniel had to do was blur the picture in the video, but he used the same picture for the thumbnail too, so I guess Daniel wins. I don't know why he was so attached to this video because it wasn't getting views anyway, nor do I know why the guy was even included in it because the video wasn't about him. Well, actually I do know why. This is why.
Just a quick history lesson on who the guest house manager is. He used to be friends with benefits with my ex-girlfriend that I dated back in 2014, also known as the chlamydia girlfriend. And yeah, there's kind of like awkward beef between us.
I genuinely cannot tell if he knows what he's up to and he's being cruel on purpose, or if he honestly can't tell the difference between being on the channel of a famous YouTuber whose content is mostly positive and being in one of Daniel's videos where there's a 90% chance he's shit-talking you. I'm actually confused after watching a bunch of his content, but nonetheless, you can very much see that Daniel does not care about other people.
It really saddens me and upsets me that not a single person that I met over the last 13 years in Japan and other countries has messaged me just casually saying, "Hey Daniel, what's up? How's it going? Do you want to hang out again?" People only reach out to me or do something or remember me when they want to get rid of me.
Can you blame them? Maybe people who have talked to you have seen your channel and are afraid of you monetizing your interactions with them while also sharing their personal information. This kind of behavior is a repeated pattern for Daniel. Speaking of famous YouTubers, another example of this is a video that Daniel did about Chris Broad. For those of you who don't know, Chris Broad runs a channel called Abroad in Japan where he makes videos about his life in Japan and does documentaries and stuff. He's a very big channel.
And I was on Facebook and I was trying to find people that I used to go to primary school with. And I found this one girl and I just sent her a silly message saying, "Hi Buttons, do you remember me?" And she said, "Of course I remember you." I went onto her Facebook and I looked at her friends list and I noticed that she was friends with Chris Broad, the person who runs the Abroad in Japan YouTube channel. She said that she used to be good friends with him, close friends with him. And she also mentioned that he went to the same school, the same primary school we went to, and he was in the year below us. But I was pretty excited about it, and as you can imagine, I made a video about it explaining every single detail. And unfortunately, I got a little bit carried away, and I purposefully told everyone the specific village that Chris Broad was from.
So he basically doxed Chris Broad, which is something he's clearly not sorry about because he gave out the same dox a second time after this event. Again, it's hard to tell if Daniel is doing this maliciously or if he repeated the dox on accident because he's socially unaware. Or he might be trying to attack bigger YouTubers that he likes as a way of getting their attention like he's some 10-year-old schoolgirl with a crush. He's done that a number of times. Anyway, Chris goes on to say that he was aware of Daniel but never contacted him because of the nature of his content, which basically includes Daniel trying to destroy the reputation of everyone in his personal life, so one can only imagine why a YouTuber would be reluctant to make contact with such a person.
I started getting some messages on Twitter and Facebook from Chris Broad, the man himself. Isn't it kind of interesting how you get ignored by someone and then as soon as you make a video or you say something that they dislike, then all of a sudden they start messaging you and they're in your DM. Me and Chris had a little chat privately on Facebook and we were both very surprised. And he said that he knew about me, he already knew about me since last year, but he was reluctant to reach out to me and contact me because of my, let's say, my reputation. And I was very happy with how the conversation was going until he said that, well, he wasn't very happy about the fact that I told everyone the village that he was from. And he didn't specifically tell me to take down the video, but I could kind of tell that he wasn't happy with me saying that. So since I liked Chris and I didn't want him to hate me, I decided to take the video down as a gesture of good faith.
Shocking how fast Daniel was willing to take the video down when the request was from a big YouTuber that he could gain something from. I mean, it's weird considering how resistant he was with the other guy. This all happened while Daniel was visiting Japan. Originally, he's from the UK. At the end of the conversation, Chris says that they should meet up the next time that he's in Osaka. Then this happens.
And then he says something really nice at the end. He basically said, "Next time I'm in Osaka, which should be in October, we can meet up and go for a drink." And I waited for October. And I waited, and I waited. And then October came. And then October went. And I didn't receive a single message from Chris. Not even a peep. Not even a, "Sorry, I'm going to be busy in October because I'm doing my bike trip. So I won't be able to come down for a drink." Not even nothing. Absolutely zilch.
Now, behind the scenes, I've talked to a couple of people who have met Daniel, and they say he's actually quite good conversationally, so I'm going to choose to believe that Chris's offer to hang out was genuine, and not just him being nice. That might be overly generous, but it does seem like Daniel is able to make connections with people on a superficial level when he has something to gain. That being said, Chris is a big YouTuber, he seems like a pretty social guy, and I believe months had passed since their talk, so he probably forgot about the offer. Offering to meet up and then not carrying that out is pretty common.
Hey man, it was good to see you. We should hang out sometime. Yeah, we should. But we never will. Not even once. And it's not because we don't like each other. Nope, we just will never ever initiate hanging out. And we'll have this exact exchange 800 million times.
This kind of thing happens all the time, especially with people who leave their house on a regular basis. Daniel, if it really means that much to you, then you could have just sent him a quick message saying, "Hey, I heard you were in Osaka, we should get drinks." And he either responds or he doesn't. It's that simple.
He came down to Osaka on his bike with a bunch of other YouTubers. The anime man, of course, Shala. Did I get an invite to join the bike trip? No. I didn't get a single invite, didn't even get an offer to be able to trail along behind the cameras and maybe follow them and then maybe catch up with them and then go for a drink or meal with them after they finished filming. Nothing, absolutely nothing. And I was just so disappointed. And then he made his video in Osaka and then he left Osaka. And then by that point, I kind of just gave up.
You didn't get to go because you didn't ask. If there's one thing I've learned about YouTubers over the past few years, it's that people who make a lot of connections are the ones who take initiative. And if you end up being cool when you hang out, they'll ask you to be around more. But if you're annoying or you leak private conversations and personal info, then people are going to avoid you like the plague, especially YouTubers. Anyway, Daniel goes on to complain that Chris came to Osaka again and didn't invite him out for a second time, which is why Daniel had a meltdown session and made this video in the first place.
It's now 2019 March, and I've heard nothing from Chris Broad, and I'm pretty sure that it's safe to say that there's going to be nothing between me and Chris. We have absolutely no relationship. There will never be a relationship between us, and I have nothing to lose by burning this bridge.
Well, that was stupid, and a little gay in the way he described it, to be honest. But Daniel obviously looks up to Chris and Joey and the rest of the Japan YouTuber Trash Taste group, and he was very close to befriending them despite prior screw-ups, and he threw it all away because Chris simply forgot to contact him. Instead of just messaging Chris to ask if he could join the bike tour that he did across Japan a bunch of years ago, Daniel chooses to stalk Chris's stream.
We're going around the corner. There he is. I'm going to walk past. Did I get him? I walked straight past Chris. The noob just got sniped and he didn't even realise. My knees are shaking.
Okay, that was super weird. If Chris's offer to hang out with Daniel was genuine, then he dodged a bullet. Nothing's worse than talking to a fan who is obsessive. So the more you hear about Daniel, the more difficult it is to sympathize because he clearly is his own worst enemy. And I mean that 90% of Daniel's problems would be solved if he stopped behaving like a teenage girl and actually took an interest in other people. But apparently that's far too tall an order for Daniel because he has a long history of being a drama queen. I'm going to skip a lot of that because Turkey Tom already did a great video on Daniel's history, and I don't want to just make the same content. But what I will do is talk about where this story takes a much more sociopathic turn, which starts out with a video called Why I Never Loved My Ex-Wife.
I don't think I actually ever loved my wife. Even from day one, I don't think there were ever any feelings of love. So first of all, it was not my idea to get married. This is what happened. Nearing the end of my 90-day stay in Japan, Chihiro started asking me a lot of questions like, do you think you could live in Japan? Would you like to live in Japan long term? So I said to her, yes, I would love to live in Japan. And then she asked me, how would that be possible? There's a marriage visa. And she seemed to really love the idea of us getting the marriage visa. It was the easiest way. It was the cheapest way to get me a visa to stay in Japan. So she said, what do you think about marriage? And I said, I guess I'd be okay with it. There was no grand proposal. She didn't get down on one knee and say, Daniel, will you marry me? I didn't propose. There was just nothing like that. It was very casual. She just said, do you want to get married? And I was like, okay. I was kind of surprised at how shockingly easy it was to get married. You just sign a piece of paper and then it's done and then you wait for a bit.
Gross. There's something psychopathic about doing a marriage like this and not celebrating it. It makes me feel like the people have little confidence in it, which in this case turns out to be completely true, as Daniel says this next.
I thought getting married would be a great way to get people interested in my channel, and it would be a great idea for content. Imagine the shock on everyone's faces when I suddenly release a video announcing that I'm getting married to my girlfriend.
It's honestly shocking how little Daniel cares about other people or the direction of his life, particularly considering how self-aware he appears to be. But instead of using that self-awareness to fix things, he just ponders what the next drama will be because he got a bunch of views from saying he got married.
It did so well. It got over 100,000 views, which was like 10 times or 15 times more than what I was usually getting. But then after we got married and things settled down and I settled into married life, I think most people who are married can agree with me when I say that day-to-day married life is kind of boring and dull and uneventful, and I found it really hard to maintain the interest in my channel just from documenting my daily married life. It was getting boring and People were not watching anymore and the views were dropping, and I panicked and I had to think quickly, how can I get people to come back and stay interested? And the easiest answer to that was drama. The only reason the marriage lasted that long was because of the drama and because of how good the views were. I kept going back to her, even though I knew it was a mistake and I knew it was going to end eventually anyway. But I kept going back to her and I kept trying to keep the marriage afloat, because the views were so good and people were still very interested even after a year of drama. And I knew that if I left the marriage and I didn't have anything interesting to pivot into, like a new relationship, then people would just lose interest.
Wow, I could not imagine marrying a person just to get 100,000 views. As someone who's been doing this for far less time than Daniel, I feel like there are many other ways to hit that view count that aren't so impactful on your life. There's also a difference between faking that you're arguing with your wife and faking that you cheated on her for drama views, and actually thinking that it's a good idea to do those things for real to get views, which Daniel did. I believe that Daniel has basically cheated on every girlfriend that he's had up to this point. That being said, you might be wondering why his ex-wife married him, and while we can't see what their personal life was like, I can imagine that it had a lot to do with her being 8 years older than him and being almost in her 40s. Japan is a very bleak place when it comes to relationships, and a lot of people end up single. They were married for around 2 years, and after several spells of them arguing and Daniel getting kicked out followed by his ex taking him back, they eventually divorced in 2019. It seems like Daniel sort of had mixed feelings on this. On one hand, he treated his wife like crap. He obviously didn't love her and wanted to get her out of his life, but on the other hand, he's very sentimental about her, to the point where he stalks her.
As some of you may know, I got into some trouble with the Japanese police earlier this year when I went to Japan, and it was basically because I was stalking my ex-wife, which I still disagree with. So they actually told me that I'm not allowed to talk about this on YouTube, but since I'm not in Japan anymore and they can't really tell me what to do, I'm going to tell the story anyway. And it all started when I was planning this trip to Japan and I really wanted to stay in a guest house, and I found this really cheap, decent looking guest house that was just 10 minutes walk away from where I used to live with my ex-wife in Japan. It's basically in the same neighborhood, and I thought, wouldn't it be funny if I just moved in down the street to my ex-wife? I didn't think she would be so upset or triggered about it. I thought she would also find it funny, but I guess I was kind of wrong.
What an excellent practical joker. Wouldn't it be funny if I just moved right next to someone who openly hates me and just, I don't know, maybe harassed her a little bit? The video is called I Got Into Trouble with the Japanese Police for Stalking My Ex-Wife, where Daniel doesn't think he was stalking, but when he describes what he did, he's very clearly stalking.
All I wanted to do was swing by the old apartments and check to see if the lights were on so I could confirm that she's still there or not. So I went to the apartment at around 8 p.m, expecting that she would be back from work and she'd be having dinner or getting ready for bed. But I go there and the lights are off, and I thought, that's kind of weird. Maybe she's just doing overtime and she's back late. So I go to the park nearby and I sit there and I wait for about an hour. And then I go back to the apartment around 9 and the lights are still off. I do this again, I go back to the park, come back an hour later. So I have now waited for about 4 hours trying to achieve this mission, and I'm getting a little bit frustrated because I didn't want to have to go home and just have wasted 4 hours and not have found out what I wanted to find out. So I looked up, when is the last train coming? Because she would definitely be back on the last train. And I see the last train come. I waited about 5 or 6 minutes and I got up from the park, started heading towards her apartment, and there's no one on the street. It's completely dark apart from a few streetlights. And I turn the corner to enter the street that goes straight to her house. And I see the silhouette of a very small woman wearing a dress. And it looked just like her. And I followed her for about 30 seconds. And I see her go to the left towards the building we used to live in, and then she disappears. And I think, oh, that has to be her.
She found out that he was stalking her because he talked about it on a stream, and she immediately called the police. Also, maybe don't make this video in the first place, Daniel, because it's very clear that she doesn't want you talking about her. Violating people's boundaries and having no filter is why people don't want to be around you. It's why people don't call you and ask you how you are. For the third time, a part of me thinks that this is malicious and he knows what he's doing, but the amateur internet psychologist in me thinks he's autistic and doesn't understand this stuff internally. I fully thought that he was malicious until I saw the video of him stream stalking Chris Broad and geeking out, and then he did the same thing to Connor from Trash Taste.
Say hi to Chris for me.
Alright, we will do.
Thanks. I touched Connor.
I've been to enough conventions to know that that's how autistic people act. He should probably get a professional diagnosis so he can start learning how to behave in a way that's not so pathological to his life and the people around him. Going back to the abandonment issues, I also think that all this acting out where he shames his relationship partners in his videos and cheats on them is just a form of sabotaging those relationships so he can't be abandoned. If he cheats on the girl, well then she can never really abandon him because he was never emotionally attached to her anyway. I'm guessing he came up with this strategy after a short bout of depression he had, after what sounds like his first breakup with an online girlfriend of 2 years, that he never met in person.
On the day she said she wanted to break up, I remember running downstairs shouting, "She's breaking up with me, she's breaking up with me," to my mum. My mum was just sitting there, she didn't really care, she was just like, okay. And then my dad came home from work and he came up to my room to see if I was okay. And for the first time ever, I broke down in tears in front of my dad and I told him everything. After she broke up with me, I was in this complete state of depression. I was so depressed and I cried myself to sleep.
Refusing to emotionally connect with his relationship partners just ensures that Daniel will never have a real relationship. Though at this point, I'm not sure if there's really anyone other than himself that Daniel actually cares about, and it's very apparent in his content. Surprisingly, Daniel is actually a pretty decent storyteller, which is probably how he gets a decent amount of views despite putting very little effort into his content. He often hits the 10K view mark, which is good for a small channel. That being said, a lot of times his stories fall short of the desired runtime, and in order to make it to the 10-minute mark so he can put mid-roll ads into his video, he will just pad the runtime with random cooking content. Now, Daniel is a devout anime fan, which explains why he doesn't see blatant filler content as a massive middle finger to the audience. Anyway, he does a lot of cooking content on his channel, which can be quite often terrifying to watch. I'm surprised he didn't lose a finger in this video. His knife is too dull to cut that squash safely. But I think at least one of these cooking videos shows a different part of his character, which is that he will just give up the minute something becomes a little bit difficult or is out of his comfort zone.
So dirty. I don't think my girlfriend cleans this, ever. I guess I could clean it for her, since I don't have anything else to do. It's not actually possible to clean inside because I can't get underneath the grill, and you can't take the grill off.
You can see that Daniel gives up cleaning at the slightest difficulty, despite the fact that there is clearly a latch and frame right there that allows you to remove the grill. I don't know how he didn't see it. Has he never fixed something before? All of these kitchen electronics are designed to be taken apart so you can clean them. So I think that this moment blends very well into another I'm a Loser video that Daniel has made.
You may have realized that I'm not a very ambitious person, and it's true, I'm probably the least ambitious person in the entire world. I don't have these big goals like buy a house, buy a car, earn a lot of money, get a good job. Not because I don't want those things. I would love to have a house and a car and a really fulfilling, well-paying job. It's just that to be able to get those things, I realized it requires so much hard work and so much dedication and so much time, energy and effort to be able to get those things. And when I was ambitious at some point in my early life and I tried to get those things, I realized this is so hard. I don't know how I can do this. I can't do this. And I ended up just giving up or quitting anything I was doing in order to try and achieve those goals.
Now, let me just say that Daniel has spent a lot of his life moving out of his parents' house, followed by moving back into it. During one of the times that he moved back, he showed the house and it looks like he grew up very well off. This is the house that he grew up in. The yard is massive and I believe it has a guest house too. I mean, if he doesn't completely destroy his relationship with his mom, he probably has a pretty large inheritance coming. I point this out because Daniel seems to have very little ability to put himself through any suffering. I imagine that he didn't have to push through many life hardships that would build character when he was younger, and any trouble he got into, his parents just bailed him out. There's evidence of that, as Daniel states that his mother bailed him out of $11,000 one year because he didn't save enough money from his YouTube income to pay for his taxes. Stuff like this explains how he's able to travel the world with seemingly no income, as his YouTube channel is not successful enough to live off of. It would also explain why Daniel doesn't know how to push past difficult challenges.
I moved to Japan, I got myself a simple job working at a convenience store, and even that was so difficult, I ended up giving up and just quitting all my dreams and just like trying to find a new way to live life without actually having ambitions, because it really hurts to have these big dreams and goals and realizing that you'll never be able to achieve them because it's so difficult and you just don't have the willpower or the mental strength to be able to stick to anything long enough to be able to achieve anything that's difficult.
I mean, you could if you were just consistent. He's not bad at YouTube, he's just not good at picking topics that people want to see on a regular basis. But he clearly has talent for some things. During this video, he said he passed the JLPT N2 test and almost passed the N1. For those of you who don't know what that is, the JLPT is a Japanese language fluency test that goes from N5 to N1, N1 being the highest level of fluency. While they don't test your speaking, you still have to be pretty good to almost pass N1. It's a tremendous amount of work to achieve that level of fluency in Japanese that takes years of study. But Daniel sees himself as a failure because he's not as good as other YouTubers.
Some people say I'm good at Japanese, and I'm okay at Japanese, but I'm not an expert. I'm nowhere near as good as people like the Anime Man or Dogen. Some of these people are really amazing at Japanese, and I'm not even close to their level.
First of all, Joey, or the Anime Man, is half Japanese, grew up speaking the language to his mom, and is very close to a native speaker. Of course he's better than you. Hitting that level of Japanese as a non-native speaker is extremely difficult. Second, Dogen is one of the best as well, and speaking Japanese is his job. You don't have to be that good to be considered a success. Daniel started studying Japanese almost 2 decades ago, and if he didn't have this defeatist attitude of, I'm only good if I'm the best, and if he didn't give up studying after he failed the JLPT N1 test in 2009 or 2010 or so, he probably would be good enough to do whatever he wanted with the language by now, considering how obsessed he was in his 20s. Daniel also has the same mentality with drawing.
People say I'm good at drawing, but I don't really enjoy drawing. I'm not sitting here every day drawing. I don't enjoy drawing. I'm okay at it because I spent a lot of years when I was younger doing it and practicing, but I'm not really good at it. I'm kind of amateurish at it. I did try to do a professional illustrating freelance job once, and I was told that my artwork was very amateurish, and they decided not to use the artwork that I made for them. They paid me anyway, but I felt really depressed and down after it because I realized, yeah, my artwork is just not good enough for professional work. And I kind of gave up doing artwork.
It's crazy to watch him spend all that time to get good at drawing, and then he just gives up after one failure or one rejection. He did that with Japanese too. This is stupid because it takes numerous embarrassing failures to achieve high amounts of success and become someone who is worth looking up to. So I maintain that Daniel quits at the slightest resistance, despite him being able to get pretty skilled at Japanese and drawing. I think he only did those things because he was obsessed with anime at 18, but once the obsession went away, the skills started becoming difficult and it was too much suffering, he gave up. This guy has unironically inspired me to work hard so I don't end up like him. So he's like Boogie, basically. At least the comment section is learning from Daniel's mistakes. As for him, though, he seems to have a decent idea of what's wrong, he just doesn't do anything with it.
So at this point, unfortunately, I've just kind of given up. I've tried so many things, and the same thing happens every single time. I get kind of into it, I get really obsessed with it, like all I can think about is this new thing that I'm dedicating my life to, and I'm like, yes, I'm gonna be the best YouTuber, I'm gonna be the best video game coder, I'm gonna be the best at Japanese, and then it gets a bit difficult and I give up. The same thing has happened over and over again. I don't think there's anything I've attempted in life that I haven't just given up on, so I feel like at this point, there's no point trying to achieve anything difficult because I know deep down I'm just going to give up and it's going to be a waste of time, so why even bother?
The kind of self-awareness that Daniel has can be an incredible tool, but what I've also noticed in my years is that there are a lot of people out there who have complete awareness of their behavior, yet not only do they not use it, but that knowledge can actually be a tool that they use to sabotage themselves.
High intelligence often is just people spinning their wheels in the mud. I have a capacity to rationalize myself to myself and tell myself that I'm doing the right thing when in fact I'm not. And so that my intelligence is actually a tool for me to deceive myself. And I notice that in other intelligent people too.
Yes, intelligence can absolutely be used to aid in self-sabotage. Whatever self-awareness and intelligence that Daniel has is being used to garner sympathy from people when he doesn't deserve it, make justifications for his bad behaviors, or convince himself that giving up and doing nothing is the correct action.
So I just had to kind of readjust and rewire my brain into thinking that, yeah, I might be a loser and I might be broke and not have things like a car or a house or a nice job or be respected, but at least I won't have to experience failure again. I experienced failure and it was so painful. I thought to myself, I tried something and I failed, it hurt. The lesson is never try again.
I don't really know what kind of failure that was, but generally failure is not as bad as you think it will be, and usually it's not that bad at all. Despite having no friends, Daniel is actually quite good at getting women to date him, And he said his favorite strategy is to be super forward, and they will either accept or they'll say no.
If I feel like a friendship with one of these girls isn't going anywhere, I'll be really flirty with her, and she'll either like it, or in most cases she won't like it and she'll be upset. And she'll never talk to me again, and that's fine with me. It doesn't really bother me.
So in the case that they say no, he seems to be fine with those failures, but any failure that would eventually lead to his success, well, I guess that's just too much. It's almost like he likes being pathetic, like he's mentally ill but doesn't have the kind of mental illness that turns you into a good YouTuber. How unfortunate. Ultimately, it seems like Daniel should just kind of grow up and stop acting like a teenager in his mid-30s. I think that's what everyone's looking for, his viewers, his potential friends, and his relationship partners.
No one cares about me, no one likes me, and that actually hurts a lot.
After watching a ton of his content, I think that there's a part of him that thinks he's irredeemable because of what he's done in the past with things like cheating or lying to his YouTube audience about being homeless for views. But the reality is that people don't care. Just make videos that viewers want to watch and they'll watch you. Content is king and people will forget how much of an asshole you've been if you stop being an asshole and just make good videos. Daniel is already good at most of the creator skills required to be successful at YouTube. Most of his problem is that instead of doing regular uploads, he just rots on stream for 8 hours saying not really much of anything. And then when he does make content, he's just shit-talking people in his personal life and other YouTubers he wants to be friends with, which ensures that nobody will ever want to associate with him. It's really simple, Daniel. Stop crapping on people that you know, quit wasting time doing live streams that are basically 8-hour therapy e-begging sessions, and start doing regular uploads that include stuff that an audience would be interested in. Literally, the tragic flaw that harms Daniel's entire life is that he doesn't care about other people. If he actually did, then he would have no problem making friends, he wouldn't be in so many toxic relationships, and he probably would be an extremely successful YouTuber. Unironically, the thing that will fix his life is the same thing that he needs to be big on YouTube. Just make content that people want to see. If you don't know what that is, do research. This is YouTube 101. People who are good at this are constantly investigating to figure out what the next piece of content people will watch is. Honestly, I don't know why everyone is so allergic to researching things that pique other people's interest. I mean, there are people out there who will waste 4 to 8 years of their lives learning a skill that no one cares about, and often go in extreme debt for it because they don't want to spend a few days researching which of their interests have actual market value. The moral of the story is that if you want people to like you, if you want to be a success, then you need to actually care about other people. Anyway, thanks for watching, follow me on Twitter, and I'll see you in the next video.